we highly encourage you to download this free white paper, either the entire white paper or just the Affinity Programs chapter. We also have a quick poll that we ran in 2011 on Affinity Programs, giving you a snapshot of different Affinity programs at Chambers back in, again, 2011. We were looking at percentage of Chamber total income from Affinity programs and so forth. And we are actually rerunning this quick poll right now and have a link to it. So we will be, if you click on this link and participate in the quick poll, responses are due April 22nd, and we will compile results and put them on the Affinity Programs page. We also list out ACCE's Affinity Program sponsors and partners. This is listed alphabetically. And here we have, make sure we just scroll down that list. You can see the different partners of ACCE, and Chris Mead, ACCE's Vice President, will be talking to us at the end of today's webinar a little bit more about sponsors and partners. We also list additional Affinity programs and partners that Chambers have used, and we also list Affinity Management Group with Adrina, who is here today, as well as a number of samples and examples on Affinity programs from Chambers across the country, and we include many of these examples in our samples library and then highlight them here on our Chamberpedia page. We do encourage you to contribute any samples or example case studies, best practices from your chambers on Affinity programs, and we would love to highlight that here. So if you would like to contribute, you can always use our Ask ACCE service and email HERO, the HERO team, which is Help Expertise Resources Online, and our email is HERO, H-E-R-O, @acce.org. So I see that you're seeing just the Affinity Programs page, and I'll scroll back up here at the top. Again, we mentioned the ACCE resources, which are retirement and insurance plans, the Affinity Program chapter from our Revenue Models white paper, our quick poll from 2011, as well as our current participation in the Affinity quick poll. Again, responses are due the 22nd. Then we list our sponsors and partners alphabetically. I'll scroll down that fairly quickly here. Additional Affinity programs and partners that Chambers have used, as well as Affinity Management Group, which is Adrina, who we have here today, who will be talking about, our expert on Affinity programs. And then we also list Affinity programs, samples and examples, as well as a link to our samples library with all Affinity programs. And we do welcome your contributions here, so you can just email the HERO team, H-E-R-O, @acce.org. And then we include articles from Chamber Executive Magazine, as well as courses, presentations, and webinars. And we will have today's webinar recording available here, as well as on our ACCE University page. And then we also list out our related Chamberpedia pages. So that's a very brief tour. We do want to mention again that today's webinar will be recorded, and this will be available for anyone to download through the Affinity Programs page or through our ACCE University link here. So you can click on that at the top. So now we'll hear a little bit more about Adrina. And Susan, would you be able to introduce Adrina?
Absolutely. Sarah, thank you so much, and I apologize, everyone, for the technical issue. But we're so happy to have Sarah here, as well as our special guest, Adrina Patterson. Adrina Patterson is owner of the Affinity Management Group. She is passionate about making Affinity programs easy and profitable for chambers of commerce. She caught the chamber bug while working at AT&T, where she managed a telecom and wireless corporate purchasing program called Profit by Association, which generated $35 to $40 million per year in non-dues income for chambers. Adrina created Affinity Management Group so she could dig deeper into meaningful benefits by identifying and managing the right portfolio of benefit programs for each individual chamber. After having worked with over 1,000 chambers in her career, she agrees that once you have met one chamber, you have met one chamber. she is happiest, at least work-wise, when she and her team are working as an extension of her chambers and helping them create member-centric and profitable affinity and group purchasing benefit programs for the chamber. We are pleased to have Adrina share her 6 steps to 6-figure affinity programs on this webinar today. So Adrina, thanks again for joining us, and please take it away.
Susan, thank you for that great introduction. Everybody, good afternoon. Thank you for joining our webinar. We're really excited to share with you the best practices we've found from chambers that we've worked with that have grown each of their affinity programs to generating $100,000 or more per year in non-dues income. It's our hope that this webinar will also give you specific steps that you can take to grow your chamber's affinity program from wherever it is now to substantial non-dues income that will have a huge impact on your chamber's bottom line. And also, it's the hope that this survey, this webinar, will save you time by helping you identify and do those elements that make the biggest impact to your affinity program. Obviously, the first step we recommend taking is to identify what your goals are. What do you want to accomplish with your affinity program? Why are you offering programs at your chamber? What precisely would you like to accomplish? For example, if your affinity programs are listed as a key reason to join your chamber, are you promoting them and making sure members view your affinity programs as a true benefit? Based on our experience with hundreds of chambers, I feel pretty safe in saying that driving chamber revenue is king. And chambers that are best in class providing strong affinity programs also know that when compared to many other non-dues revenue sources that they've done, that occur hard costs like printing, catering, room facilities, for example, in preparation or conducting an annual meeting or conference, affinity programs generally have a much better and huge profit margin, which is usually in the 80 to 90 percentile range. But it's really not only about the money for these best-in-class chambers, at least from our experience. For example, if you wanted to leverage your affinity programs to help drive new member sales, then you may want to help determine what your chamber sales team needs so that they can share the ROI and related benefits to potential members. Many of you probably know that health insurance has historically been the program that a lot of chambers have had huge success in driving and leveraging in order to drive member sales. But another example is, for example, merchant processing that a number of programs chambers we're finding are doing so that they can attract and drive sales in key vertical markets like retail and professional services. One of our key new initiatives this year is to help chambers wanting to deepen their member relationships and improve retention, of course. Is to incorporate their affinity program into the chamber's new and renewing chamber membership campaign. So what's the second step? We recommend that you determine which programs that are important to your members as opposed to simply being popular among chambers. One of the most important takeaways we really hope you get from this webinar is to do only those programs and benefits that are important to your members. The right portfolio of benefits, for example, for the LA Chamber, may not be the right group of programs for the Raleigh or Tucson Chamber, yet each of these chambers have great affinity programs. To help you or those responsible for affinity programs at your chambers, we're conducting a 6-part series that will take a deeper dive into each of these steps that we're discussing on this webinar. The first session will be May 6th, and we'll make sure you have our contact information if you're interested in attending. Which programs are right? We recommend simply asking your members. This way you can accurately identify your members' biggest pain points and determine a list of products and services they struggle most with getting for their individual businesses. How to start is a little bit challenging often. What we would recommend is maybe look at those products and services your chamber needs that are either difficult, take a ton of time to evaluate, the various vendors, or are expensive without any negotiation room that are needed at your chamber. Additionally, often you can bring in a group of member businesses that match your member demographics and either ask them what they need, or if you prefer a more formal approach, simply conduct a focus group. If you or someone on your chamber staff would like to sit in on our Determining the Right Partner 30-minute webinar, we'll also provide a sample member benefit survey in that session. Before moving on to the next step, I thought you might want to see examples of the most profitable affinity programs. Almost any affinity program that addresses those products and services your members need most can be profitable if negotiated well with the providers. We believe key in offering a true member value that your members of all company sizes are those that they could not negotiate on their own. From our experience, simply white labeling or adding the chamber brand to a product or service really rarely works. The biggest value is often discounted pricing, of course, but there are some other benefits that are important. For example, to reduce operational costs, like migrating from 1 to 3 providers, is a really common benefit with telecommunication solutions. Another example is outsourcing solutions to reduce internal man-hour expenses, such as HR solutions. Several chambers in the New York area have had great success with their HR programs. Even reducing the time it takes to purchase by using an online application versus a retail store is a good benefit, and many of you are probably thinking office supplies fits that bill. In preparation for this webinar, we also reviewed 150 ACCE-only members so that we could take a pretty quick look at what were the most popular programs. By far, the most popular is the Constant Contact program, with, I believe, over 2,000 chambers promoting this program to their membership. Although some may not consider this a true affinity program, since it offers the Constant Contact portfolio of services instead of a revenue share payment, which is why I didn't include it in this graph. Our experience has been great with this program. For example, the Gwinnett Chamber in Georgia has found this to not only be their #1 requested benefit for members, but the member experience has been so positive that members actively consider the Chamber's other benefits, really as a result of using the Constant Contact program. Office supplies is another very popular program. The revenue varies greatly from one office supply program to another, and it also varies depending on which member company size segments the Chamber promotes with this program. So I really didn't want the lower chamber earnings per member to suggest that you shouldn't do this program, but more to suggest that it would be a solution for all members regardless of their company size. Telecom, I believe, is one of the most undervalued affinity programs. By the way, this, I hope, is not just because my background is a telecom, but because that it really saves members, even small companies, a ton of money. Many don't realize that telecommunication is a top 5 line item expense for members with less than 10 employees, and it's a top 10 line item for most larger companies. Average member savings with this type program is over $2,500 per year, and the average chamber revenue per participating member is $733. 13% of the 150 chambers, we at least looked at your websites, have a workers' comp program. And workers' comp, we're finding, is another really quickly growing program. For example, several chambers in Arizona have incredibly successful workers' comp programs with a high percentage of members that are participating, and of course, as a result, generating huge non-dues income. Health insurance. Despite our biggest worries and a lot of sleepless nights and a feeling that the health insurance programs would completely disappear. Many chambers have been able to keep their health insurance programs. In fact, 33% of the 150 chamber websites that we reviewed had continued to have health insurance programs. Now, granted, there are new rules and plan designs, but they continue to be by far the most profitable and I believe beneficial for members, at least from our experience. For example, the Kentucky Chamber just launched a new health insurance program that focuses on healthy living lifestyle. I believe third quarter of last year that they said is showing great early success in member participation and as a result strong non-dues income. In South Carolina, 65 chambers are offering health insurance programs, and due to very forward-thinking planning for Obamacare and their strong relationships, these chambers have built, with Blue Cross Blue Shield underwriting the programs. For example, the Charleston, Columbia, and Greenville chambers in South Carolina have each experienced 28% or better growth this past year with their programs. And this is to the tune, without sharing who's doing what, this is to the tune of ranging from $150,000 to $260,000 per year in non-dues income just from the single program. So what's next? Well, once you determine which programs you want to offer, we recommend that your next step is to identify which partners you want. We are very big proponents of doing benefit programs with local providers. For example, many hugely successful workers' comp and HR type programs are provided by either local or regional providers. But really, bottom line, what we encourage chambers to do is to be fair to all members in the category of the programs that they've selected as benefits. And not to mention, this will also help avoid a few political landmines along the way. This is really the biggest reason we recommend conducting a request for proposal as a selection process in picking your next program. The request for proposal, or RFP for short, will help you pick the best provider for your chamber, and of course will help you determine who does what, as well as setting expectations and of course program goals. Additionally, you may want to do an evaluation matrix to make sure you don't select a provider based just on a couple of criteria, as opposed to really selecting the best overall program for your members and the overall best provider. The fourth step in creating a solid affinity program is to develop a marketing plan. And creating this plan really isn't as complicated as you might think, although I think my graphic would say otherwise. So excuse that. Simply identifying what are the best channels and venues to promote your program is really what's needed. We'll also have a 30-minute webinar to do a deep dive into what chamber promotions work best. But basically, if you look at what are the appropriate avenues on your website, your printed and digital communication, and of course the appropriate events, you'll hit the most important avenues in promoting your program. So once you have a marketing plan, the next step is to promote it to your members. When you pull together a marketing plan, you hopefully also create a step-by-step guide to letting members know about your affinity program. This step is really important, but basically it's all about executing the plan that you built. And the plan that you built not only for the chamber, but including your partners so that you can jointly determine the best venues in promoting the program. And this leads us to the final step, which is to evaluate your affinity programs. Affinity programs, unfortunately, are easy programs to get overlooked at chambers. I think mostly because, unlike event-based programs, there's never really any sense of urgency to work on them now. So these programs can easily become dormant to the point of really no longer being relevant to your members. overall, think of a three-legged stool. We found 3 core reasons programs fail, and this usually is because, number one, I think the biggest reason is the program is not the right fit for your members. If you believe this is the case with your current programs, or if you're not sure, simply ask your members, both those that are participating in the program and those that are not, if the program is still valuable. You could even do a quick poll to members like ACCE. Sarah just announced the ACCE is doing for the Affinity program. So just like ACCE does a poll to determine what feedback, so you can provide feedback on what's important to you as a member of ACCE, we certainly recommend doing the same with your members. The second most common reason we believe programs can fail is from the provider, that your provider just really isn't doing those things that are crucial for program success. And if you think this is the case, identify those activities and promotional elements that are key for your partners to execute on. Simply sit down with them, come up with a game plan, and relaunch your programs. Often this is really the only thing that it takes to completely turn the program around. Additionally, we do recommend on a very frequent basis to track, we recommend even monthly, the new member sales from each of your Affinity programs. And this gives you a proactive method of seeing how your program is growing, or if it's sluggish or really sort of dormant. And thank you, Sarah and Susan, for giving us a sneak peek at the quick poll. But in looking at that, it looked like there were a pretty good percentage of chambers that were struggling with growing their program. So I think this is a crucial element. And of course, the third may be the chamber has or has not promoted their Affinity program. So, simply ask yourself, have you and those that manage your Affinity programs simply been too overloaded to focus on them? And even if the answer is yes, with the right focus, many programs can be resurrected and become great programs. In fact, some of our most successful programs today were almost dropped just a couple of years ago. I mentioned the South Carolina successful health insurance programs. We actually, those programs were pretty dormant for a couple of years. We did a big request for proposal, turned that program around, and to this day, Blue Cross Blue Shield, we couldn't ask for a better partner. So it really goes to say that you can turn even challenging programs around. Bottom line, if you periodically evaluate your Affinity programs, you can really improve the results and the participation, and of course, as a result of the participation, something near and dear to all of our hearts, the non-dues income. As a resource and as a thank you for sitting through today's webinar, all of you that attended will be providing you with a CEO checklist, and this was designed so that literally with 30 minutes to an hour a month, you can sort of analyze where you are in your Affinity programs, give you or your staff support in moving your programs to becoming really highly successful and driving non-dues income that really makes a difference to your chamber. With that said, I would love to open up for any questions.
Thank you so much, Adrina. We really appreciate your taking the time to give us your expertise in that presentation and for making the Affinity Program Management Checklist available to our members. We really appreciate it. We have just a couple minutes for questions. If you have questions, go ahead and type them in the question box to the right of your screen. And I will say that since we're running late, we may not get to all questions, but please, no worries. We will get back to you individually with answers to the questions if we don't get to them on the webinar, either Adrina or someone from the ACCE staff, depending on the question. So please feel free to type them in. We will get to you, whether it's on the webinar or afterwards. Adrina, we did get a question or two specifically about Constant Contact, how that program works and how chambers make money off of Constant Contact programs.
Okay. The constant contact, in lieu of earning a non-dues income, what Constant Contact has done is they provide chambers interested in promoting constant contact to their members, and there is a solid value for members, by the way, is they will provide at no cost. I think there's some thresholds that have to be met for the chamber to receive constant contact at no cost. And this is a great program for chambers of any size to take advantage of. And I will tell you that we are working on something to bring a little additional value with constant contact, and hope to share that in a future webinar. But this, I hope that answers that question.
Okay, thank you. Another question: how many affinity benefits does a typical chamber offer, or should they offer? What's your recommendation?
Oh, that is really a good question. One thing you can count on is affinity programs will evolve and change over time. We really and truly recommend having and constantly working to have 3 to 5 solid affinity programs. You know, becoming over-reliant on a single source of non-dues income, if, for example, a partner were to be bought and the program could go away. I know some of you that we've worked with, you're thinking of a couple of providers about now. You really need enough so that you can add stability to your program. So I would recommend between 3 and 5.
Okay. A couple questions related. Who or which staff member is usually responsible for the program, for running it, tracking, marketing? And then a related question, how much time or staff resources does a program usually take, or should it take? And how do you measure or evaluate the staff time?
Okay, staff time. Okay. When we look at best-in-class affinity programs, and these are programs that are generating from, you know, with a small chamber, there's no reason why a small chamber with just a few hundred members cannot generate tens, thousands, if not tens of thousands in their non-dues programs, if you select those that are important to your members. But we do recommend that this be a chamber program as opposed to residing in the membership as sort of a silo program. So given that, we recommend that not necessarily in the day-to-day activities, but we recommend that the full chamber be involved, that we recommend that the CEO is engaged. Some of our most successful programs, the CEO doesn't sit in on our monthly meetings, but will attend quarterly. That really gives him a sense of the pulse of the program. It encourages we keep his vision or her vision in mind in promoting the program. And then additionally with the various departments. You know, an easy way to do that is also to periodically reintroduce your affinity program at a staff meeting so that it really does become a full chamber benefit program. In terms of staff time, a simple rule of thumb that we recommend is you don't want to do too many programs that you can't do them justice. But literally, if you're doing the right things, you can manage affinity programs with between 1 and 3 hours per affinity program per month. So literally, someone can invest, you know, 6 to 10 hours a month on their affinity program, and many of those that we've worked with are spending no more time than that, yet these programs are generating hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in non-dues income.
Okay,
any other questions?
Thank you. How long does it take to implement an affinity program if basically nothing exists, if you're starting from scratch?
We can help provide sort of a step-by-step, and I'm hoping this webinar helped there as well. You can create a program within 60 to 90 days.
Okay. And here's a related question. If some of your programs in place need work, should you wait to fix current programs before adding new ones? I
recommend adding new programs. in the past, I wouldn't have answered this way. But experience has proven to go ahead and do the new programs because you're looking at the program in the present. You're looking at promoting it with what's relevant at the chamber now versus, promoting it in functions that no longer even exist at the chamber today. So we do recommend adding 1 to 2 new programs, only enough that you could manage, because they'll add a lot of energy to your programs. They'll motivate you to really resurrect, fix, relaunch your other programs as well. So I would certainly recommend adding new programs.
Okay. Well, thank you, Adrina. We're running a little short on time. We have a few other questions, but please be assured we have them and we will respond to you individually within the next day or so. So thank you so much for your questions. And before we wrap up, I did want to turn the mic over to Chris Mead, our Senior Vice President, and he has a few words about sponsors.
Hello, everyone. Just a couple quick things. Adrina, thank you very much. That was very helpful. And folks, please, as you see, contact her if you want to be online for more of her information. She has other webinars that she does outside of ACCE, further advanced, that you can be in touch with. So you'll need to contact her for that information, but we will send you the information we already told you we were going to send from her. The second thing is another specific affinity program, namely that of LifeLock, which which ACC is working with, will be on April 22nd. So keep your eyes open for an invitation to the webinar on LifeLock. That's at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Time, April 22nd. And you'll see LifeLock and you'll see Adrina and a whole lot of other interesting people involved in affinity programs at ACCE's convention in Montreal, August 11 to 14. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Adrina. And again, Adrina's provided her slides to us, her presentation, as well as her checklist. Please look for them on our website within the next 24 to 48 hours. And thanks, everyone, for joining us, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.